sit back and relax. What an absolute amazing interview I did for the show. So I'm not going to say much more about it because there's so much to cover, but this is Jason and Martin creating an amazing sound together. You need to go and check them out because what they do is just absolutely magical. Wonderful. So part of the Dougie Stone podcast series on interviews with artists and topical stuff that's going on or whatever around there. I'm really I've been excited for this for the last few days running up to this interview. So guys, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi everyone, I'm Martin Byrne, aka the Big Boss and half of Eyewitness.
Excellent.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jason Smith, the other half of Eyewitness, spoken word poet. Great to meet you.
Wonderful. And thanks both of you for giving your time up and coming on. I know you've both been busy, even though there's the current situation. And I was really intrigued and when I talked to Martin last week, because I wanted to do more interviews with artists. That's what the station's about anyway. And when he gave me the background, I thought, wow, that's a really compelling and interesting story. Then I got to listen to the music and I was like, wow. So I think it'd be great because I know that, and you know the story, but no one else that's listening knows the story. So I don't know which one of you wants to start on that. But I think Martin, if you'd say what sort of happened, what we discussed last week, it'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Because and actually, what's interesting about it is I'm sure there's two sides to the story as well. Because it's what happened for me and what happened for Jason. So yeah, I went along to this gig at a pub local to me in Macclesfield called the Swan with Two Necks, and they had this gig on called Let's Get Chip-Faced Too. And and I thought, well, that sounds interesting. But I knew the guy that was Compare actually. And it was all guys that have hacked like old Sony PlayStations or even further back, like Nintendos and all. They're basically geeks that had hacked in and turned them into musical instruments and were making this kind of chip tune music, which it's kind of like dance music, but it's really kind of gritty 8-bit dance music. And so I went along, and in fact, I've just seen on my screen now, Let's Get Chip-Faced Level 4 has been advertised. I went along and the compere came out and he said, before the band start, we're going to have some poets. And I have to be completely honest about this. In my ignorance, I kind of went, oh great, I came here to see bands, and that was my ignorance. And a couple of people came out, and it was like, yeah, it was quite, it was entertaining. And then Jason came out, and there was just something really different about him straight away. He had a real presence about him. His accent. I'm from New Zealand, so you get a slight variation from the top of the north to the bottom of the south. It gets a little bit broader, and that's it. So one of the things I loved about England was you travel 5 miles and the accent changed. And Jason's got this thick Wolverhampton accent. He's obviously a black guy. He's doing poems about being in prison. The words were very honest and very heavy, but not only that, he had a real kind of cadence to his delivery and a tempo, and I was just kind of taken aback. I was standing there going, wow, who's this guy, so after he performed, I just went over and had a chat, and I think I said something along the lines of that was great, mate, can I buy you a pint, what's your story? And that was pretty much it. And Jay told me a little bit about his story, and I just said, have you ever thought of doing it to music? And he said, yeah, he'd like to. So I just said, right, well, look, why don't we just do one song? Worst case scenario, you don't like it. I'm the big boy. I won't get upset. No worries. And that was the starting point. So that was what happened on my side.
Now that's interesting. Hey, you're not only the big boy, you're the big boss.
The big boss, yes. When I say the big boy, I'm not the big boy.
You did, yeah. I'm a big boy, and I can take it if we walk away. No, right. And that is brilliant, and I get that because some accents lend themselves to that sort of talking, don't they? You know, some accents don't, but I think when you get a very broad accent, whichever accent it is, from whether it be a Glaswegian accent or, you know, Welsh, or
Yeah.
there's something about that accent when it's really, you know, and I get what you're saying, because when I've listened to the track, and we're going to play one of the tracks in a bit, you can definitely, I get what you mean about his voice and about the deepness of it and the Wolverhampton accent, and it just works, doesn't it? It does bloody work. So, what's your side of the story? And by the sound, there is, I'm not sure if you want to talk about your background and some of the reasons. I'd like to understand, I'm sure other people like to understand, how you ended up at that point doing poetry on the stage. Over to you. Over to you, man.
So, how far do I go back? I'll give you a brief history about that meeting.
Yeah.
I could go far back to when I started creating poetry. You want to start there?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Maybe, if you can give us a flip side to Martin's view of what happened, because two sides to the coin, isn't there? Which is great.
Okay. So I was working 2 jobs at the time, and my relief was I'd do poetry on the streets to people and at events. You know, it was kind of an outlet, and it was a growth. I liked doing that. And round in Stoke-on-Trent, there is a group called the Roaming Poets, and I'm one of those members. So we're at events or on the street, we roam and we share poetry. And just so happens, a friend in Macclesfield, he was starting the Roaming poetry business in Macclesfield. So on that day, I went up there myself, and decided to give him a hand. So I took a lead. So we, like, for instance, went into one pub, and I already know people are drinking, they don't really want to listen. So I get the idea of the place, and I seen one such a place. I seen a guitar in the corner. I said to one of the poets, "Can you play the guitar?" Said, yeah. So he went and got the guitar, stood in the middle of the place on the floor, and started strumming the guitar. That got everybody silent.
Right.
And then I walked in and I just gave him a poem, and then that would be the icebreaker, and people would start listening, because it is challenging when you're speaking poetry in a pub, and it's kind of a skill as well. But so that's how it ended up in Macclesfield, was going around different pubs, pre-arranged to share poetry. When I went into it's a club, isn't it? I believe it's a club and not a pub where Martin was at.
It's a music venue, yeah.
Yeah. So straight away, what I saw was a stage, and they properly set up a mic, and that I loved that. Straight away, I thought, wow. And so I believe I took the lead on that one as well. I thought, well, okay, forge ahead, give all the other poets confidence, because that's part of my story, a confidence, getting confidence to be able to do that. And I remember sharing How Can I Explain, the poem, and I like that poem because it's written from the heart, it's expression, and it's powerful, and it's actually giving information, it's showing people something, and it's drawing on the empathy of the person that's listening, and that's what that poem's about. And at the time, initially I started writing poetry on the page. I wrote a novel at some point, plays, and I started writing initially on the page. In 2015, I started speaking poetry, spoken word, and a few years later, I wanted to adapt poetry to music, but at the same time, it was very difficult to adapt my poetry to music, because in doing so, I would actually lose the words and the poetry. It's all about the words, what I'm trying to express. So that was a battle that I was trying to win, and in order to grow, to put words to music without sacrificing the words. And so that meeting with Martin was an amazing thing, because at the time I wanted to use music, but I just didn't know how.
Yeah.
Martin, he says, send me some lyrics and we see what we can do. And like a magician. He done it.
Well, there's a skill in both sets, isn't there? There's a skill in, and I fully understand what you're saying about losing the impact of you doing the poetry. I love poetry. I absolutely adore poetry. And I think that's why I gravitate towards two genres, one being reggae and one being country music, because both of those genres, and I do like a bit of hip-hop as well, both of those genres have a lot of storylines, don't they? Rather than pop music, they have a lot of storylines. You know, whatever it is, a lot of it's about, you know, if you look at reggae and hip-hop, a lot of it's about oppression and, you know, growing and getting out of stuff, and the country's normally about something else that's gone on, isn't it? So I adore poetry, but I get what you mean. You can lose that, and there's a skill in what you do in the lyrical side, and there's also a skill in Martin taking music and putting it towards so he's not lost. I think it's fantastic.
You know what? And a really interesting aspect of that, Kirk, is that I thought from the beginning, there's two ways of doing this, right? Either I get Jason to adjust his delivery to make it fit in with a piece of music, or I make the music fit in with the delivery. And the first poem he sent me, he actually sent me a voice recording. I think it might have only been on his phone as well, but it was How Can I Explain? And so I grabbed the audio file of that, I chucked it up on Logic, and chucked it on a timeline, and then I just listened to it and just tapped out and worked out the tempo. And I didn't have to change one single word in that poem. Once I worked out what the tempo was and I started putting beats and things behind it, it never went out of time from start to finish. And I've never known anyone that can have such a natural cadence that the tempo just stays all the way through. So straight away, that question of whether I was going to have to get Jason to adapt or not went out the window, because actually it's the music that fits the poems, and that's right as well, because it means that none of the intonation and the expression and the cadence that Jay's got is lost because we're adapting it to music. So I very much work from the point of making the music fit the poem, fit the tempo, try and fit the emotion of it as well. It was fascinating to chuck it up there for the first time and just see that actually over 4 minutes it just stayed in time perfectly. Incredible.
That's wonderful. That is really cool. It really is good. And I'll probably change the playlist now, having said that, because you've both talked about that particular track. So actually, that probably should be one that we actually play on the show.
Yeah. It was the first one as well. And when we went and we actually met up once we decided, look, let's do some more of this. We met at a studio called Prism in Stoke, which is run by a guy called Sean Lowe, who's a kind of producer of note, because we wanted to record some more vocals of a quality where we could use them. And we tried doing it to the music, and it didn't really work. We had to go, no, scrap that idea. I just said, no, right, you just do your poems.
Cool.
Because actually trying to get Jason to come out of what he naturally did wasn't the right move.
Cool. What I'd like to do now is play that track, and then I'd like to delve a bit deeper into the background of how you end up with it, because we didn't cover that. We just covered that first bit. So I don't even think I've listened to this track. I've listened to the 3 that you sent me from the EP. So this is the first time I'm going to hear it, and the first time a lot of people out there are going to hear it. And having listened to you talking, I want to hear that track. So here we go. How can I explain? Let's see what this is like.
How can I explain? How can I explain the pain of a prison gate gaping more, opening and closing with a soul-shaking finality? A finality echoing screams off walls along dark corridors of foreseeable futures, where life-giving umbilical cords are cut within cold solitary cells of confinement, with an empty vacuum sucking life from bones. How can I explain? How can I express being birthed into numbers I can never forget, where every day I regret having to recollect, deceptively disguising a weakness or fearing a broken rule to become sleeplessly angry when things spiral well to control? How to control in the place of mental scars, bars, fences, walls, all whispering wisdoms if only I bow down. If only I bow down to become part of a dark heart, didactically expressing. Symphonies are constantly writing bells, mental tolls, pounding feet and blows, death throws, headlocks, four balls in socks. The deafening steel doors lock and clicks. Despair in silence, my life clock ticks. The angry silence between pent-up breaths. And the silence after the mournful swan songs I sang when bereft. How can I explain? How can I express? Pretending happiness on contactless visits and becoming cold and cautious with heart's desires crushed underfoot like cigarette butts more than once. All the dying inside as I reside in a limbo, while suddenly reaching and screaming for close ones who are finally giving up on a family ghost until ghosted. How can I explain the pain of having infected gums and emergency bells repeatedly pressed and no one comes? Or the sound of officers even another brother down to be bound in body bags when just yesterday they bounced around not so happy-go-lucky. How can I express being labelled faithless by leaders quoting, "The thought of prisoners voting makes me physically sick"? Hear the mental click. So that means that the bill of my time will continue to chime along society's perceptions of my lifeline. IPP indefinitely. But it's my life, it's my love, but one chance to live, it's my gift from God. And what about my family who need me? How can I explain hopes and dreams being snatched away in a place you cannot cry, you cannot dream, and you cannot say, I love you, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, without an implacable darkness descending to smother where I have to discover holes in which to squeeze just to breathe, or draw imaginary poles to pole vault over towering walls and leave just to land in my sacred place under shady trees. How can I explain? I cannot.
Well, I'll let me just unmute you. That's the, and that is amazing because I've never heard it before. And that is, let me just unmute Jason. Oh, unmute. Yeah, there we go. Right, that was absolutely knockout. The lyrics were brilliant. Sound was. I can understand why you wanted to cover that, and I like the progression of the music as well. There's some bits in there like, oh, that's good. Oh, yeah. And then something else comes in. It's like, wow. So it's like, yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well done, guys. That's a spot on.
That poem originally, so that poem was performed in 2015 at the National Theatre. I was asked to create a poem. The concept was home and how charities could get more involved in the justice system. So I was working, I'm a trustee of a charity called Safeground. Wasn't at the time, that's another story. And they asked me to prepare some spoken word with the concept of home. And it was my first, 2015, it was my first big event at a National Theatre. And I wanted to really express what prison was like. And I think that poem done it well. And I got some good feedback from the National Theatre, which is an experience in itself.
That's wonderful. That is absolutely. Honestly, I'm not just saying it. That is really great. I just love it. That's brilliant. Now, after this, I'm going to be listening to it again because I think that was wonderful. I want to really absorb what you've said because obviously you don't capture everything, don't you? And you miss bits. Wonderful. So. You talk so that it sounds like, and Martin had a bit of a chat. You've obviously had a bit of a background, which has ended up creating the person you are now, and the sound that you've created, and the poetry that you've discovered. So, if you can discuss any of that, or you want to discuss, I'd love to understand a bit more. If you're happy with that, it's entirely up to you.
Yeah. Okay. So I believe it was 2002, and I had let's call it epiphany. epiphany that showed me something more than what I'd experienced in life, that there was something more, because my upbringing was pretty cold, problematic. But when I did have this epiphany, it was so amazing. I wanted to share it, and but also I'd stopped going to school when I was young early because of dyslexia and not feeling right there.
Yeah.
So I decided to enroll on education if it's in prison, because I wanted to write about this experience. And at that time, there was also Coslett Arts. They won annual awards in the prison system.
Yeah.
And the teacher asked me to enter a poem into the competition. And at the time, I thought, well, people like me don't win anything. But I entered into the competition, and I got an award, and I got a poster under my cell door, which is a bonus because I never had no money. So I half believed that I was lucky to actually have won an award, but I still continued anyway. And next year, I got another award. So what I'd done, I thought, okay, I'm on something here. I got the writer's yearbook from the library, and I started writing. I started writing plays, scripts, working with screenplays, stories, poetry. I used the postal system, the Royal Mail system, to send off lots of places. Mm-hmm. Sometimes like Synergy Theatre. And one of the places that I used to send things off to is the charity that I'm now a trustee of. So brilliant. Year on top of year, I started writing on. I got better at it. And as a side note, the first award that I got from the Coslett Arts 2 years ago now, I judged the same category. I went down to London and I sat in offices judging the same category that I'd done so many years before. But anyway, so I progressed on with my writing. And so first I was writing for the page, and I got a bit better at it. I'd write for other prisoners, be that memorials or poems to their loved ones. And that there helped me go, okay, help with my empathy as well, to get a snapshot of other people's minds, where they're at. So first of all, poetry was cathartic to me, and it was cathartic to others. But then at one point, I discovered actually I believe it came with my own confidence. Me speaking the words to a person could contain potentially more power. So I started to do that. I started to memorize what I was saying, put an inflection, intonation in there, and to actually really express words that people don't speak. And when I done that in prison, it was like introducing a new narrative into people's lives in the darkness, which to me was empowering, because believe it or not, a lot of people are put down, both inside and outside prison. Some people don't lift people up, but quick to put people down. So I changed the narrative. I started picking people up and sharing. So in 2015, I moved to Stoke-on-Trent and a new start. And I kind of flourished. I started speaking about poetry, and like I said, in 2015, I performed at the National Theatre. Since then, I performed at Roundhouse in London, the Old Vic, Bet365 Stadium, carnivals, events, won lots of poetry slams. I published one book already, Beyond the Words, that's on Amazon. And I met Martin. I've achieved a lot. I've also, apart from that, doing all of that, I also work as well. I mean, I started working for a charity with young people, where I was speaking in schools and colleges on topics like overcoming fear, building confidence, which was a journey for me as well, because that built my confidence. And I was working for the probation services as well at one point, as a community support worker, helping people with multiple needs. And now I'm a development coach for young people that are in care. So that's part of my journey, because it is pretty amazing. I mean, I've spoke at the London Literature Festival. I've won lots of poetry slams. I mean, this to me is like amazing. Life is an amazing journey.
Yeah, it is.
You know, so this is amazing.
Do you know, and that is fair play to you and credit to you, and you deserve all the success you get from now on. You've already had success, but whatever success you get from now, you deserve it 100%. What I really like about that story is a few things really. I'm dyslexic myself, yeah, and I didn't discover I was dyslexic until I was 44. I was in a senior role in a global organisation, and it was the first time I had to use a lot of report writing. Before that, I used to just motivate teams, develop teams, and get the best out of teams I could get, and I was really, blow me on trumpet, I was bloody good at it. Yeah, give me any team, and I'll motivate them to be the best they can be. So I like that because, and I went to university when I was 40. When I discovered I went to university at 44, and I did a master's degree, and my dissertation was Are Dyslexics Predisposed Entrepreneurs? So I did a lot of research into dyslexia, and you've come up with a real valid point. You dropped out of the system because the system is not designed for the small percentage. It's designed for the whole. It's designed for the masses. It's not designed for the 10-20% who are dyslexic. There's that in the prison population. You'll find a very high percentage of dyslexics. Not because dyslexics are bad people, it's because they don't fit in. So if you keep telling someone forever and a day you're thick, you're stupid, and you'll amount to nothing, the chances are you'll amount to nothing. Because the other thing that you'll do is we all want the nice things in life, don't we? We all want to earn stuff and have a car or a holiday or clothes or whatever those things are. And I'm not saying you because I don't know your story or your reason why you was in prison, but what tends to happen is the dyslexics are very creative. They solve problems, and as a result, if they're not fitting to the system, do you know what? I need money. I want money. I'll go and earn it somewhere else, and they can fall into criminal activities, and that's why there's a lot. Because you struggle to get a job. If you've got to fill an application form in and you can't spell properly or whatever, the chances are you won't get the job, or you'll get jobs that you don't want to do because the low pay, etc., 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 and you'll struggle. So that's part of the thing that I researched. So for you then to drop out of school, then go into prison, teach yourself to, and this is what I really like, you're dyslexic and you use words. And it's funny because I really love words. I love words even though I struggle with words. Does that make sense? I love text. I love different fonts, and I love to see words, and I don't know, there's just something that draws you, even though I don't particularly like read. I hate reading. But
I don't like numbers. Numbers, if you give me numbers, I tend to run the other direction. Words, I love it.
Numbers, mate, I'm all over numbers. I can see things in numbers, and that's why I think I'm good at what I do as well. I can translate numbers into something, into information. But all credit to you for doing what you're doing. And the other thing that you're doing, I now speak in schools as well for a charity, even though I didn't like school. And even the last school I went to, I said, this is bizarre because I'm actually in a school, and I hated school. Towards the end of my school life, I hated school. What am I doing in school? But what I want to do, and it's like what you're doing, you're trying to take a positive and encourage people to take what they've got and push it into a direction, a positive direction, rather than a negative direction. It's more difficult to push it into a positive direction. And we should build people up, not push them down. We should encourage them to become the best person of them they can become. Which
I mean, like yourself, I didn't discover that I was dyslexic till later in life. And the test that I'd done, I nearly got missed because what I'd done, I'd put. So when you get things back to front, automatically I'd stop and check myself to correct my dyslexia. So when the test came, almost didn't pick it up because I put things in place.
Yeah.
And that's I think a good thing about being a divergent thinker, is it? It's the fact that we're dyslexic, we see things differently sometimes. And I believe young people in schools, I mean, I'm working with a young person at the minute who's got dyslexia. But so it's a way, he wants to be a bricklayer, he's struggling with the maths. So it's like shifting things around to the person to let them identify themselves, how they can, because everybody's learning style is different, everybody learns differently, you know, and some people might take longer, but at the end of the day, everybody is worth learned that time and effort. And myself, I mean, I didn't go to school. I struggled, and to be fair, like because of my dyslexia, I was always adapting to circumstances. I was always adapting to my circumstances. Things didn't really change until I took time. I stopped adapting to what's out there, and I paid attention to what's in here, which was very difficult at the time, because when you peel back the layers and take off the mask that of your environment, and you start going, let's call it inner child, when you start going your inner self, then that's the emancipation. I mean, that's your true self. And it was, well, I done that in prison. It was a dark place. To do that was very hard, because part of me wanted to put on my armor of environment, rather than just let myself be, you know,
vulnerable,
the open person. But I did that, and in that was my growth and my emancipation, and giving me sight, seeing beyond the box that I was in. That's partly how it began.
You know, one of the interesting aspects about me and Jay's relationship is probably only met 5 times, maybe 7 times, maybe in person, and we don't really talk about anything other than the music, because we have such a short amount of time together that whenever we are talking, it's like, what's, you know, what we're going to do with this track, what do you think of that? And so we've never really even really had a conversation like this, because I don't feel I need to, because I feel like Jason's story is in his poems, so I feel like I know him. Because of that anyway. But one of the things I always wanted to ask you, Jay, is you know, when you were coming out with, you talk about your armor, right, and your environment, and obviously in prison you got to have heavy armor because it's a heavy environment. And how do people perceive when you started coming out with poetry in prison? Because that I would imagine some people would use that as a form of weakness, you know, because it's art, it's actually expressing yourself. You know, what was the perception when you first started doing that in prison? Did you get a lot of resistance to it?
So the poetry, people acceptance of poets in prison, because they're utilized. People always want to write to their family and their loved ones. And there are many great rappers, musicians, artists in prison. It wasn't towards that issue. I mean, for me, it was like being that vulnerable. Whereas in the past, people walk a certain way, look a certain way, and some people knew me from before with my front. And when they saw the vulnerable me, some people did try provoke me, but I wasn't provoked. And sometimes, no, I wasn't provoked at all. Even though it was frustrating and hard, but at the same time, I knew that if I buried myself again, well, it's like a death, you know. Once you see, how can you be blind again? You know, well, you don't want to be blind again, you know. So the armor, you know, it's easy to put. It's easy to put a mask on. It's easy to put a mask on and take it off. You know, and me personally, I'd rather not have a wall in front of me and other people. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, you go on a tube. Imagine if you go on a tube, a lot of people are not open, they're caught up in their life, you know. But, you know, sometimes, you know, it's okay to just stand there, just be open, and, you know, just greet people as open, you know, and be open. And if you're open, straightforward, people will accept and listen to you more, because sincerity, that's what it's all about. sincerity.
Brilliant. Good question as well, that, Martin. And yeah, it's actually a brilliant question.
I'm after your job, mate.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And that's why I love doing this sort of stuff, because and that's brilliant. If nothing else from today, you've asked a question that you've never asked. And I get why you've not asked it, because there's no point. You don't need it. You're busy. So what I'd like to do now, and I don't know if we talk about before or after, is the track that really drew me in was I Am England. And it's very powerful. Really, really powerful. So should we have a listen to it first and then talk about it afterwards?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I adore this track.
I am the essence of multiculture. English, Jamaican, Italian, a whole blend of colour. Wagwan. What's happening, mate? Ciao, come over. But I used to look at the St. George's flag feeling fear. I'd see hateful faces, skinheads with Dr. Martens and tight drawn laces. I'd see placards and hear shouts of England is ours, and blatant lean faces. Go back to where you come from, even though this is where my place isn't where I belong. I used to walk into rural towns and take a look around. I'd see the red cross on white and turn about facing fright. I've been run down or run out into flight for retreats or fights for life. I used to look at the St. George's flag and see ignorance, racists, and secret Nazis and fascists. But now I see multifaceted races and faces from far-flung places, gathered united under an idealism shouting, not in our name. Now I see idealisms representing my father, wind rushing with bright plans and working man's hands, aiming to pave lands with blood, sweat and tears and make England's cobbles gleam beyond unseen years. Now I hear and see a train carriage clickety-clack along main lines rickety tracks, and see moving blue light shadows cast as red watches firefighter teams hurtles past. I see buzzes wandering hilly highways and B-roads byways, whilst looking out the windows pondering intricacies seen through sidewalks cracks that rise up and talk in tongues speaking of England's past. But we cannot jump into the river of time in the same spot as it flows on, gone swiftly fast. Now I see bus stops, lollipops, chase after ice cream vans in my gym jams, coal fires pop, rockets, bangers, mash, and splashes of daddy sauce while having a giraffe. Barbers taps, kick the cans, knock and run, BBC, mushy peas, chip shops, Sunday roast, marmite on toast. We know bitter little about the iniquity of justice. Just, nice, Banksy's, mild and bitter, dripping jam on toast and in this a boast. I'm the essence of multiculture. English, Jamaican, Italian, a whole blend of colour. And I am England. A whole blend of colour. Wagwan. What's happening, mate? Ciao, come over. I am the essence of multiculture. English, Jamaican, Italian. I am the essence of multiculture. English, Jamaican, Italian. I am the essence of multiculture. I am the essence of multiculture. And I am England.
Well, honestly, that obviously not very good for, and we played a video over that, but I had goosebumps with that, because the music, I think, I'll talk about the music for a second. That music that goes along with the narrative is just on fire. I like the way. I mean, people won't see it, but you did a bum bum bum, and then the beat drops in. It's just brilliant, mate. Brilliant.
You know, I got the when he goes into the, you know, coal fires pop,
Ding ding
bang,
ding.
it splashes the daddy sauce. That kind of that cadence of that bang,
Yeah.
this, that,
Oh,
the other. That's what gave me that kind of tempo for it. But you know, I'll let Jay talk about it, because
no,
you know,
I know, and I just wanted to say that because we're gonna talk to Jay, and you'll get lost in it. You'll get lost in it. But the music, it just sort of adds another dimension, because it just sort of, and it goes, and then you think, brilliant, absolutely blown away by it. And the lyrics, you're right, Daddy Sauce and all the other, and there's another word, wow. It's just like everything's going on in it. It's wonderful. So,
you know, I just wanted to say before you speak to Jay about it, is that the you know, when that video link we sent you where Jay's got the story of the poem behind there, and one really interesting aspect of that is where he talks about skinhead culture in this country, and the fact that actually, you know, skinheads were not really from here, and listening to ska and reggae and old school stuff. And I came from an environment in Auckland in New Zealand, where I hung out with lots of punks and skinheads, and I was kind of myself. And half, I would say 50% were black, and it was about music. And yeah, we were in a gang, but it was kind of self-preservation and looking after each other. And one of my guy that was like a second father figure to me, he was slightly older guy, a black guy called Daryl, still in touch with him today. And it was only when I got to England, I was very ignorant then, and I was only 21 when I got to England. When I got to England and started going to gigs, that was the first time that I experienced another sort of skinhead, of the racist side and the fascist side, and all of that. And I was like, oh shit, I don't want to be associated with this, and you know, grew my hair. So it's really interesting that on opposite sides of the planet, that song has kind of relevance. You know, that's I just wanted to chuck that in there.
I love it. So, tell us a bit about that track, Jason, because that is wonderful. Really is. That's the one thing, the track that just drew me in straight away. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I've got to get you on. I'm not just going to talk to Martin. I want you on as well, because it's just brilliant. Give us the lowdown, man.
Okay, so at the time, Stoke-on-Trent, when I originally read the poem, Stoke-on-Trent was bidding to become the capital of culture. So culture was very much in the air, that word, because I was trying to actually identify what culture is, and because in the bid, there's lots of interpretations for it. But also at the same time, around that time, two artists, Martin Byrne and Karen Bayliss, they collaborated and they use it. They put a St. George's flag on a coffin and asked a lot of artists to respond in, what would you say, at England's funeral. And well, first of all, we have to identify what England is. And well, being as you know, the people of England, they come from different nationalities and races from going way back. So it's not a bloodline. It's not. It's ideals. That's what I come down with. It's ideals. So if it's ideals, then what are the things? What are the ideals and what are the things of Britain? So I wanted to put that across in at the end. You know, like, you know, coal fires, pop, rockets, bangers, mash. But also the fact, the connotations of St. George's flag to me, because like I say, I'm a mixed dual heritage, English, Jamaican, and Italian.
Yeah,
and
a whole blend of colour. Love it.
Yeah, I want to express that, and also that the connotations of St George's flag because when I, perhaps a bit now still, go into a rural town and I see the red cross on white, the St George's flag, if it's there a lot in different places, to me it's like, well, this perhaps is a no-go area for me because it might be a lot of EDL supporters because the fascists, they've adopted that flag. And I've spoken to a lot of people that are not racist. They like the St George's flag, and they really do not like the fact that the racists have took over the flag.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly. And I'm one of them because, and I've said this a lot of times to my wife, if you go to Wales, they have the Welsh dragon on. Go to Scotland, they have go to Cornwall, all the cars drive around in Cornwall with their flag on. I wouldn't put it on my car. I wouldn't put it on anything I'm wearing. And I'm English. Do you know what I mean? I'm English. Do you know what I mean? We're all I wouldn't put, because as soon as you put that on, I won't even wear, right? I lived and worked in Holland for a year, and I'm not into football, but I had an England top. I gave it away to a Dutch guy and wore a Dutch. I will wear a Dutch top, but I won't wear an English top.
And it's a shame. It's a shame in that, because like the flag itself, it's also representative of a patron saint George, and the patron saint of Ethiopia as well, and lots of different places. So it's and also that's a shame. So I want to express about the flag, and also it gave me connotations for me growing up. When my first experience of racism, but I understood it when I was 8, and my sister took me uptown. We was going to get some shoes, some Clarks, and a van went, a flatbed lorry went past, a lot of people on in the back, and then it was called the National Front. It's changed now, isn't it? And it was like shouting racial abuse, and I was shocked. I didn't understand it because I was only 8. That was my first experience. And then later in life, connotations of the flag. Well, like I say, the EDL and the racists, they've hijacked it and they made it. It's like the Confederate flag. Yeah. And there's the Spandau banner. So I mean, I feel much safer if I see the Union Jack hanging around.
And that's sad, isn't it? That is really sad. And obviously not experienced it because I'm white. I've not experienced that. I have experienced a little bit of it when I worked in Holland because I was an outsider. So nothing to what you and I could come back home and be away from it. But I get it. I sort of get it. We can never empathise. We can never be in the shoes. We've never been in the shoes, have we? But I do think it's wrong how things have been hijacked. And I would like to say I'd be embarrassed to put that flag on because it's straight. But I'm proud to be British. I think it's a great nation. Generally, it's a great nation. It's got great values. It's inclusive. Generally, it's inclusive. And I think it's a shame that some extreme views have changed that, because generally most people are genuine people and take people as they are. So what that does is people like yourself who've experienced that, when you meet somebody, you might make me for the first time, and I might have a union, I might have the St George's flag on because I'm a patriotic about where I'm from. You'll have a different reaction to me straight away, and I'll have
I tend if I ever see a pub and it's got like a big St George's flag outside, I think usually it's like saying to me, that's like a stronghold, don't go there. But and what I also want to express with the poem was the fact that I am from England, born in England.
Mm-hmm.
My mum is from England, my dad's from Jamaica, mum's half Italian as well. So, and this is where it says it all in the poem. This is where I am. You are
English. You're English, aren't you? You were English. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Stoke-on-Trent was going for the capital of culture at the time, and I was trying to get involved in the bid, or because there's lots of funding come around in the artists get involved. But I found that I wanted ethnic minorities to be more representative in the bid. So that's where I am the essence of multiculture, because there was that question of what is culture, and I believed that culture is a people. It's also what people are doing. Yes, it is what the city produces, potteries and art, but it's also the people. And so I wanted to really say, look, this is my identity, and I am part of the culture. This is me, and that's why I could really speak the poem at a lot of poetry slams which I've won. You know, I'm a multi-slam champion.
Love it, man. Honestly, I've really enjoyed this interview, and we are fast running out of time. We've probably got about 10 minutes left, so I'll have another track. But it's been
there's so many lines that I love in that poem. And one of the things I really love about it is it's kind of taking ownership of yourself, because it's saying this is what it used to mean to me, but this is what it means now. And one line I really absolutely just love in that is because, you know, we cannot jump into the river in the same spot as it flows on, gone swiftly, fast. And that's what I love about that. And what I love about Jason saying that is to me, it's basically saying that, you know, despite what's happened, then you have the ability to influence the future should you choose to do so.
That's right.
And that might not be the message that he's putting out, but that's certainly what I got from it. And I think that's such a powerful message, you know, massively powerful message about ownership of yourself and other things, and actually the ability to change stuff through thinking and words. I honestly absolutely love it.
I do as well. Right, I want to squeeze another track in, and then we'll finish off with a bit of chat. And I've selected from the thing that you sent me, When She Stopped Running. So I do like that. I like what you've done with it. We're going to run out of time, so people need to go and check this track out.
When she stopped running from something seeking to drag her back into captivity, of a tight-fisted, imprisoning grip.
So that's a little taste. Go and check that track out, When She Stopped Running. And I think that really showcases the music talent there of making that almost like a dance tune. And I just need to get everyone... you're right. It is long. It's a long track, and that's why I
wonder where you're going to play that. I thought he's not going to play the whole.
No, because it's about 9 minutes long. But what I wanted to do, I thought the vocals kicked in a bit earlier than that. But your music, I think it really shows your music, and then when you do start talking, it just brilliant. We are fast running out of time. I believe we could talk for hours and hours.
I love. I'll tell you one thing I really like about that track. It's called When She Stopped Running, but what I took from that. And this is what I like about Jason's poems as well. And it's what I like about music is regardless of what the artist is pushing across, it tends to mean something different to the listener.
Yeah, definitely.
Personal to the listener. And for me, what I take from that is just, you know, I think we all get to a point in our lives where we either stop and take responsibility for ourselves and take stock and realize that we're almost at a sliding doors moment, and we either stop running or we don't. You know, I think that is a really common theme. That, you know, I love that tune.
Yeah, it's excellent, and it's 9 minutes long. It's brilliant. So, like I said, I think we could talk all day, and we've not got all day. Yeah. We've only got a few minutes, you know, and we need to cut it short. So, thank you very much for creating what you've created. Thanks for pushing through, especially you, Jason, with your where you've come from, what you're doing, why you're doing it. I think it's a credit to you, mate. Really do credit. And the sliding doors moment of you two meeting is just beautiful. I think beautiful. Yeah. So, where can people find you, Martin?
They can find us. They can find me and Jay at Eyewitness Music on Facebook. They can find Jason. Well, you're saying me, right? Okay,
yeah.
He can do his bit. You can find me. I'm at the Big Boss UK on Facebook. TheBigBossUK.com, and then I'm on the Eyewitness page as well.
Wonderful. What about you, Jason? Because you're doing lots of stuff. So the Eyewitness page, where else?
So you can find me on Instagram, Wordsmith212, on Twitter, Wordsmith212, on Facebook. But we've got the Eyewitness page on Facebook. You can find me there. You can also get a copy of the book on Amazon, Eyewitness the Word, Jason N. Smith.
Brilliant.
If you'd like to get that. And the album will be available to everybody shortly, and everybody can get something out of all the tracks is there for all, and it is timeless and also topical for I believe every moment in every situation. You need to, we address domestic abuse, prison, knife crime, race, peace, love. It's all there. So get behind that album, download that album when you can, buy that album, buy the book.
Yeah, definitely. And check you out and follow you, because I think you're absolutely right. And I think you need to get out. It's a positive vibe that you try and get out. You're talking about real issues, grassroots issues, everything from it. And that's what I really like. And that's what we need to be doing. And we need to try and do something that brings people together, not pushes them further apart.
That's right.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Well,
thank you very much for having us on, Kirk. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. I wish you the ultimate success for the future. Keep on doing what you're doing. I love it. I absolutely adore it. Thanks for being on the show, and let's keep in touch, because that'll be we need to.
Mint. Thank you, man.